Welcome to AZPM News Daily, a wrap-up of all the day's news from Arizona Public Media. I'm Steve Jess. Coming up today, a mass shooting in downtown Tucson.
I was extraordinarily sad. I'm still very sad about it.
Flash flooding along the border.
Get out of those washes, don't cross into them, be mindful and be careful.
And 57 years after one small step, we're going back to the moon.
The more we can learn, the better.
That's ahead on this Monday, July 20th. First up today, local businesses and organizations are rallying together after a mass shooting in downtown Tucson. Thatcher Warwick Hess has more.
Gunfire erupted in downtown Tucson early Sunday morning, leaving 9 people wounded. Police say 21-year-old David Leroy French has been booked on 19 charges, including aggravated assault and firearm-related offenses. Businesses in the downtown area are continuing to process the violence. Downtown Tucson Partnership President Crystal Moore said she attended an event just a block from the shooting the night before.
I was dazed. I was extraordinarily sad. I'm still very sad about it.
According to the Tucson police, an officer responding to the scene shot the suspect after he refused to comply with police commands. French was treated at a hospital for what police described as life-threatening injuries. Police say French may face additional charges as the investigation continues. I'm Thatcher Warwick, AZPM News.
Floodwaters swept through southern Arizona Friday and into the weekend, with local officials confirming 3 deaths in Santa Cruz County alone. Angela Gervasi has that story.
Rio Rico Fire Chief Adam Amezaga says dozens of first responders from the United States and Mexico helped with rescue and recovery efforts this weekend in Santa Cruz County. He encourages people to act quickly when they hear a flash flood warning.
Get out of those washes, don't cross into them, be mindful and be careful, because when it comes like an avalanche, like how you see on the news. Instead of snow, it's an avalanche of water and it just takes you out.
The National Weather Service says another flash flood warning is in effect for Santa Cruz County this afternoon through Tuesday evening, along with identical warnings for Greenlee, Graham, and Cochise counties. Angela Gervasi, AZPM News.
Tomorrow is primary election day. Polling locations open at 6 a.m. and close at 7 a.m. Arizona voters can also turn in their early ballots tomorrow until 7 p.m. Speaking at a news conference earlier this month, County Recorder Gabriela Casares-Kelly noted that ballots are tabulated by bipartisan teams of Republican and Democrat volunteers.
Your ballots are processed in a bipartisan manner from the time of pickup, whether that be from an early voting site, a ballot drop box, however we receive that ballot in whatever manner.
The Elections Department will open 120 voting centers tomorrow across the county. To find a location, head to pima.vote. For on-the-ground election coverage Tuesday, head to news.azpm.org. Pima County health officials have confirmed a case of measles involving a Tucson resident. The person who is fully vaccinated against the disease developed symptoms after returning to Arizona from international travel, according to a Friday news release. They are currently isolated and recovering at home. As of July 14th, health officials reported 332 measles cases and 25 hospitalizations in the state. Pima County recorded just 1 case last year and 2 cases earlier this year. While officials say the overall risk to the public remains low, a public health investigation is underway to identify and notify anyone who may have been exposed. Arizona's Medicaid agency has announced the launch of a new generative AI search tool. L.M. Boyd has the latest on how it'll be used to connect people to treatment for opioid use disorder.
The Arizona Healthcare Cost Containment System, also known as Access, developed the tool to utilize a multilingual chatbot to provide immediate localized recommendations for medical assistance. The platform integrates natural language processing and Google Maps with the goal of improving how residents navigate complex healthcare networks for those in need. According to a news release from Access, this initiative specifically targets common barriers to care, such as language differences and insurance complications, through a non-judgmental and mobile-friendly interface. The locator is mobile-optimized and available now by visiting the Access Opioid Service Locator online. L.M. Boyd, AZPM News.
Oro Valley has accepted a 10-year plan that will support the maintenance and development of its trails, including the Chuck Huckleberry Loop. Senior planner Kyle Packer says the plan was based on community feedback. The initiative came 15 years after the town's last trail efforts.
We just have a lot more insight into which trails are the most valuable to the community and what they want to see on those trails, whether it's more restrooms, more hydration stations. We want to get out there and make sure that the paths are clean so that no one takes a spill on their bike or anything.
Packer says apart from expanding trails, priorities will include signage, safety, and expanding volunteer programs. He says the next step is sharing their 2-year implementation plan with the Oro Valley Town Council. The world is celebrating humanity's first landing on the moon. Tony Perkins reports on lunar science history being remembered at the University of Arizona.
Legendary space scientist Gerard Kuiper established the U of A's Lunar and Planetary Laboratory in 1960 to continue his work mapping the moon's surface. Kuiper helped identify landing sites for NASA's moon landing missions. U of A planetary scientist Danny Della Giustina explains moon exploration is now shared by almost a dozen countries.
The science return from having multiple nations on the moon and sending, their own planetary science missions is going to be just a benefit. The more we can learn, the better.
Spacecraft from several nations have orbited the moon. The United States, Japan, India, China, and Russia have all landed robotic explorers on the lunar surface. I'm Tony Perkins, AZPM News.
Republicans running for governor in Arizona have a delicate balance to strike. They want to convince voters they're not too extreme, but as they battle in the GOP primary, they're also trying to assure conservatives that they're aligned with President Trump. From Phoenix, Cameron Sanchez reports.
GOP Congressmen Andy Biggs and David Schweikert are competing in the primary along with businessmen Scott Neely and Ken Maselli. Biggs is endorsed by Trump and backed by Turning Point's political arm, but he's gone out of his way recently to assure voters that he can work across the aisle and earn the support of independent and moderate voters.
I have my principles and my values, and I adhere to those. But I also know that across the aisle are some ideas that are really good, and if we find a point of agreement, then we work together to get that stuff done, and that's the bottom line.
Schweikert says if Biggs wins the primary election, he won't be able to beat Hobbs, like Trump endorsee Kari Lake failed to do in 2022. Schweikert says he knows he can win because he's won competitive congressional races for 7 cycles in a row. Schweikert represents Arizona's 1st congressional district, which is one of the most competitive in the country.
We've demonstrated a conservative can win in swing districts. I think I know the Democrats' most expensive loss for the last 3 cycles. I'm the only urban-suburban Republican who won in 2018. They wiped us out all across the country, except for us.
Both Schweikert and Biggs served multiple terms in the Arizona legislature before going to Congress. Neely ran unsuccessfully for governor in 2022 and for mayor of Mesa in 2024. He runs Action Concrete Pumping in Mesa. Maselli is a first-time candidate and runs a construction company called Maselli Construction Group out of Scottsdale. Maselli bashed Schweikert because he was found guilty of 11 campaign finance and ethics violations in Congress, including using official staff to work on his campaign. Biggs has an interesting past, too. In 2020, Biggs voted against certifying multiple states' election results, including Arizona's, and said we don't know who won that presidential election. Biggs denied being involved in organizing the January 6th Capitol riots, disputing claims by a former White House aide and a former representative who said he was part of a Jan 6 planning meeting. If elected, Biggs says he plans to implement a lot of the GOP legislation Hobbs has vetoed over the last 4 years.
She basically vetoed any kind of water management bill. She vetoed dozens of those. She vetoed bills dealing with election integrity, something I think in the neighborhood of 70 of those. She's neglected the Department of Public Safety in Arizona. I wonder if she's ever even visited some of the facilities that are around the state and seen how poor those facilities are.
Biggs also pledged to sign an election reform bill Hobbs vetoed to get faster election results in Arizona by altering the deadline for early ballot drop-offs. Republicans in the state legislature call it the Florida-style elections bill and say that Arizonans will have more trust in elections if the results are finalized sooner. Schweikert didn't commit to supporting the Florida-style elections legislation. Biggs claims that he will eliminate the state's income tax without raising any other taxes or having to cut services. As for how he'll pay for it, Biggs says he'll mitigate waste, fraud, and abuse in programs like Medicaid, and the money the state will save will backfill the loss of the income tax. Schweikert calls himself a fiscal hawk and is known as the charts guy in Congress. He often gives lengthy presentations about fiscal issues and the need to eliminate federal debt. He says Biggs' idea doesn't make sense and the state would definitely have to raise property taxes to pay for killing the income tax. Schweikert acknowledges numbers aren't the most sexy thing for a politician to focus on, but says his expertise is on the issues that matter.
Turns out complex problems require complex solutions. And if someone's giving you a super simple solution, I promise you it's absolutely wrong.
Neely says he wants to eliminate property taxes for seniors and lower taxes on businesses. Misali said he'll eliminate property taxes entirely. The primary election will be held on July 21st. Early voting is in progress. Cameron Sanchez, Phoenix.
And now you're caught up on the stories we've covered today at Arizona Public Media. Thanks for joining me. You can subscribe to AZPM News Daily wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Steve Jess, and we'll be back tomorrow.